International Group Corazon House Build Project in Mexico and the RH Star Project. This year, God willing, she will be assisting with the Motor Classic. And now I'd like to introduce Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you, Molly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. I hope that it's going to work here. Can you see my screen? Is this working? Somebody say something.
No, I don't see your screen. I see you.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. Let's see.
Do you need to name her as a host to share her screen?
Okay,
Right.
let me try that.
You have to share it, and then you have to push share in a separate move. There's two moves.
Thank you, Jim.
We tried that earlier. Anybody can share screen. I did the setting, but Stephanie, you might have to go to your whiteboard and click on the whiteboard, the screen you want to share.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay, go to the whiteboard.
Go to share screen.
Stephanie, when you say share screen, a whiteboard will come up and then you just double click on that.
Okay, just a second. I have to get out of this thing. Okay, now. Okay, share screen. Okay.
Here we go.
Does that work?
Got it.
Okay. Good. You can hear me. You can see the screen.
Yes.
we can.
Okay, great.
Good job, Stephanie. Thank you.
Okay, well, we got it here. So thank you, Molly, for the introduction and for your persistence in getting a reluctant Red Badge member to talk about herself. I would like to thank Greg Johansson for providing guidance for this talk about our own past, present, and future. I owe my membership at Rotary to Dennis Neer, whose sponsorship and support I greatly appreciate. Thank you, Dennis. And thank you to my mentor, Lucille Norberg, for her inspiration. Dorothy Parker, along with other writers, participated in the round table at the Algonquin Hotel in New York City in the 1920s. Being writers, they enjoyed word games. One evening, Dorothy was asked to make a sentence with the word horticulture. She thought and replied, "You can lead a horticulture, but you can't make her think."
Oh.
Good one. Good one. Good one.
Okay, so who am I? Okay, let's start with the technical. This is the DNA report from Cellular Research Institute Genetics. I've highlighted the expected ones based on my family history. My paternal grandparents came to the United States from Sweden in the early 1900s. My maternal grandparents are from the Midwest, and my mother's great-grandmother was Native American. My father was born in Washington State, and my mother in Kansas. They had 4 children, me, my sister Gretchen, and my 2 brothers, Marshall, and Craig. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. My mother, convinced that all cultured young girls should speak French, started lessons for me when I was 5 years old. While I didn't learn much French then, I was hooked on the French language, people, and country, and became a lifelong Francophile. When I was about 7 years old, my father was traveling to Los Angeles frequently for meetings with his boss, J. Paul Getty. He explained to me that Mr. Getty was the richest man in the world, but he didn't think that he had enough money. I concluded from this that to aspire to accumulate money was a futile and ultimately unfulfilling endeavor. My grandfather, Anton Johansson, like many people in the early 1900s, was a socialist. So it is in my DNA that as a student, seeing the free speech movement at the University of California at Berkeley, that is where I would go to college. I spent my junior year at the Université de Bordeaux in France, where, along with inspiration from Julia Child, my love of cooking took off. My senior year, I met a brilliant graduate student from Argentina, Carlos Allen Egan. We were married and moved to Los Angeles when he was offered a position at Occidental College to teach political science. There he had a promising student named Barry, whom he encouraged to go to the East Coast and to expand his horizon. The rest, as they say, is history. After President Obama's trip to Cuba, he went on to visit Buenos Aires. Perhaps it was a tribute to his former professor and mentor. Since graduating from college, I've always worked. My field is information technology, software applications development, and project management. I began work at Wells Fargo Bank in San Francisco, developing an accounting system for creative artist agency, a Hollywood talent agency, and then worked primarily for law firms, the last two on the list being Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher and Latham and Watkins. I no longer work, agreeing with Bill Gates that IT is a field for the young. What can I say about Nabil Sejan? We met at an art gallery in Pasadena, and having similar interests as art collectors, hit it off. Dennis Neer can tell you stories about our encounters with the San Marino City Council. I am speaking, Dennis criticizing me, Nabil jumping up out of order to defend me, Dennis threatening to have the police remove him from the meeting. Over the years, I became convinced that the council members really didn't like me. A while ago, former Councilman Dick Ward introduced me to his wife, saying that I was the conscience of the council. Well, perhaps. And Dennis, you should know that as a teenager, Nabil got his political training during the Lebanese Civil War. So please forgive him that he was not so polite and refined. A few years ago, Nabil had a heart attack and died. He was 59. After Nabil's death, I took time to regroup and felt that I would not be ready to rejoin the world until I met two criteria. First, that I would not impose my problems on anybody else. And second, that I no longer felt vulnerable. Today, I am a single woman d'un certain âge, living in a beautiful home in San Marino, filled with antiques and art, doing gardening and cooking, a bucolic setting from which to launch myself. In mulling over what to do, my brother Marshall suggested Rotary. He is a member of Rotary in Orinda and told me that Rotary was an excellent organization and that the members were very nice people. He is right, and I'm so glad that I joined all of you. I believe the Rotary motto of service above self is an important and fundamental value for all of our well-being. I'm enjoying participating in the international group projects with Jean-Pierre, Shodi, Isaac, Andrew, and by extension, Corazon in Mexico and Community First in Cambodia. The RH Star Awards project and working with Denise was a great experience. I'm now helping with the Motor Classic and learning about cars, fundraising, and advertising. As for the future, who knows? The only thing that is certain is that change is inevitable and a life force. Years ago, I read an essay entitled On Practice by Mao Zedong that, politics aside, has stayed with me. It says, if you want to know the taste of a pear, you must change the pear by eating it yourself. And by eating the pear, you have changed it forever. I will conclude with this advice. Eat the pear. Savor it with humility and compassion. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was fantastic.
Beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful.
you. Any questions?
When
Can you
are
do
we,
a Julia Child impression?
No, I leave that to Dan Aykroyd.
Okay, good, good.
when are we coming over for dinner?
Well, when we can get together, we'll do it. Yeah.
Thank you,
Great.
Stephanie.
Thanks, Stephanie.
You've definitely been an example of service above self.
Thank you.
I think the district sees a Cooking with Stephanie coming soon.
All right.
We could
Well-
do it as an online thing, watching her and doing it on our own.
I would sign on.
I would too.
Okay.
Well, if it's all right, Greg, for me to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Again, this is just fulfilling all my wishes, just hearing these beautiful craft talks. Next, we have Bryan Hathorn. Bryan is an attorney licensed in California and Tennessee, and he runs his own law office in Pasadena. He graduated summa cum laude from the University of Tennessee College of Law and was named outstanding graduate of his class. Bryan also is widely published and has been an invited speaker on diverse topics, including topics in trust administration and others that he will be talking about in his talk. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Bryan Hathorn.
Thanks all for attending. I hope you can hear me. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal history, where I've been, what I've done, and how I turned in, from being a scientist into being a lawyer, which I know for a lot of people who think that science is all about math and lawyers hate math, is a little bit of a strange transition, particularly for somebody who doesn't practice patent law. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about, why I have, an advanced degree, a PhD from Caltech, but don't call me doctor, because I'm just like an ordinary person. Okay, let's see. Okay, first, I'm going to talk a little bit about, places I've lived and where I've been. I was born in New Jersey, moved to upstate New York, went to college in Pennsylvania, did some research at the University of Utah, returned to Pennsylvania. Then I lived in Delaware, worked for DuPont. I came out to California for graduate school. Then I moved to Tennessee, where I lived for about 10 years. And then I came back to California. I guess the start is when I was born. I'm the youngest of 3 children. My brother John is a teacher, and he lives in Georgia, just outside Atlanta. my sister Robin is a dentist, and she lives in North Carolina, near the University of North Carolina. And when I was born in Princeton, New Jersey, but when I was about 9, we moved to rural New York, where you have short summers, cold winters, and you have a opportunity to spend a lot of time outside. And I was fortunate in that my dad had a pretty extensive library in our basement, several thousand volumes, including all of his academic texts from college. And I've got a picture here, and this is our front yard. You can see there is nothing there. And you know, if you want to go to the grocery store, it's a 25 or 30-minute drive each way. So you're really out in the middle of nowhere. And I think in my family, and this goes to what I do now, is that people in my family don't really know how to make a dollar, but we sure know how to stretch one. And yes, I stole that from Bryan Cranston, but I think it's an applicable thing. I think when you're dealing with money, being conservative is good. I grew up, I went to high school. I was the science geek in my high school. I was a good student, and I was, you know, the top student in all the science classes. And I could have gone to, you know, a lot of different schools. I was actually offered a position at Princeton at one point. I turned it down. But my dad gave me some really good advice. And I think this advice, it's not necessarily good for everyone, but it was the right advice for me. And I was a science guy, a math guy, whatever. And he told me, you can go to any school you want, so long as it doesn't have tech in the name. And for me, that was the right choice, because had I gone to Caltech as an undergraduate, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Rensselaer Polytechnic, Georgia Tech, any of these schools, I would have taken nothing but math classes and physics classes and chemistry classes. And I'd have re-emphasized my nerdy qualities. So instead, I went to a small liberal arts college in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Haverford College. It's a school that was founded by the Quakers, and it's based on Quaker principles, the Society of Friends. The thing that appealed to me the most about it was actually the honor code. And the honor code means that all of the exams, for the most part, are take-home exams. Everybody trusts you to do the right thing, and I think that trust is fundamental. The other thing is that decisions are made by consensus under sort of Quaker values, and it's a small college, and you have personal relationships with your professors. It is not Dr. Green, it's Curtis. It's not Professor Cheezick, it's John. Everybody is on a first name basis, and I think that derives from the Society of Friends. You are friends with your professors. I think it makes for a great learning environment, because the professors learn as much from the students as the students learn from the professors. The school also encourages public service, and I think I guess Rotary has a trademark, service above self, but that's really a fundamental principle in the Haverford education.
Hello. Hello.
And finally, there's no titles or other distinctions. Everybody is treated as an equal, which is great. And that's why now, don't call me doctor. I'm just Brian. I'm just like anybody else. When I graduated, I went sort of the path of least resistance, because I was very good in math and science. I went to Caltech. I worked on a mass-independent isotope effect for ozone formation with Rudy Marcus, the 1992 Nobel laureate. We derived a theory that's widely published. And really all it is it's the study of populations. Those populations are molecules in that case. And it's understanding population dynamics is really good, and you can apply it to a lot of things. In fact, at one point, I worked on populations of people and mail for populations of anthrax vaccines or anthrax virus traveling through the mail system when there was a contamination issue. And that was while I was at Oak Ridge. I moved to Tennessee after I graduated. I worked at Oak Ridge National Laboratories. I taught at Maryville College part-time. And there I started doing a lot of public service projects. I worked for Habitat for Humanity, building houses. I was on the board of the Knoxville Rowing Association, rowing crew around the Southeast. I also continued with science activities with the Tennessee Science Bowl and Science Olympiads. In 2007, I got married. We came back to California for it. My wife is actually on today. And we got married in Yosemite, a traditional California destination for a wedding. It was great. And I think at that point, I was starting the lobby to get my wife to agree to move back to California eventually. She just didn't know it at the time. It took a few years. After the wedding, I shifted gears and I went to the University of Tennessee College of Law. And I think this is where that advice my dad gave me when I was very young was great, because had I studied nothing but science, I wouldn't have been able to become a lawyer. But in college, in addition to all the science classes, I read Shakespeare, I studied history, I studied music, I studied a lot of things. And I think having a diverse background is invaluable, particularly when you're going to change careers. And I think it's useful to be able to talk about a lot of different things and to talk to people. When I went to law school, my plan was to become an estate planning attorney, which is a pretty big shift from science. But the advantage for me is I'm good with numbers, and estate planning, a lot of it is about taxes and numbers and figuring out the best plan for somebody's estate to pass on the maximum amount of wealth and also to maximize charitable opportunities. And I was fortunate in that one of my classmates from Haverford was on the faculty of the University of Tennessee. And I was able to discuss it with him before I went. And so, again, this is that Haverford connection that comes back. For my legal career, after I graduated, I clerked with the Tennessee Supreme Court, which a lot of people say a judicial clerkship is a great way to start your career. I think a lot of people try and get federal judicial clerkships because they're really prestigious. But for me, I think that clerking for the Supreme Court of a state was better because you have a lot of opportunities and all of the cases are interesting. There are no dull cases because everything is done on cert. You have to petition the court to appeal the case. And so all the cases are good and issues of first impression, and it's a lot of research. After I clerked, I convinced my wife to move out to California, and I started work at Quinn Emanuel downtown. It's a major international law firm. And that's when I started really litigation in chief, because at the time, even though I had wanted to do estate planning, there really weren't a lot of jobs available. It was in the height of the Depression after the real estate market crashed in 2008. That went on for several years. And after a couple of years at Quinn Emanuel, I went to Withers Bergman in Century City. And that's where I learned the art of estate planning and estate litigation. But true to service above self, I've always participated in pro bono activities. I participate in Saturday legal clinics. I volunteer for lawyers in the library, giving free legal advice at the LA Law Library downtown. And now they've moved it on to telephonic conferences. I had 3 conferences with clients yesterday. And also, the American Bar Association has a free legal answers website where I can give legal advice in Tennessee, even though I don't live there. So I get to use my Tennessee law license in addition to my California law license. So my current stop, I've got my own law practice in Pasadena. I do estate planning, probate and trust administration, probate and trust litigation, some general matters. I have an active pro bono practice, so I like to help people out. And you know, my goal in the practice is quality legal services at a fair price. Finally, it's not all work. One of the great things about living in Southern California is that there are lots of activities to do here. I like to go out with my wife and we go all around. Every year we go back to the Wawona where we got married. You saw the wedding pictures earlier, but we go back there usually at Christmas, sometimes also in the summer. We go to Dodgers games. We actually have a small cabin in Big Bear where I am right now. So I was shoveling snow this morning. We've been to lots of things in San Diego and also, you know, the Hollywood Bowl and whatnot. And finally, before I conclude, this is the free legal advice of the week. This is a public service announcement, and I've mentioned it to some of the people in the club. And it's not really a business promotion, but if you need help with it, I can help you. I don't care who you go to, but make sure you get it done. A lot of people right now don't have estate plans, and they should. But the key point is that a lot of college-age children, they turn 18, they go away to college. They don't have any estate planning documents in place. And this is particularly important right now. If you have an adult child and they get sick and they go to the hospital, mom and dad call up the hospital is not going to tell you anything about their health condition. They need a HIPAA waiver. So get, maybe not the full state plan in place, but get an advanced healthcare directive in place. And that's pretty easy to do. You can go to a lawyer, you can get a sophisticated one, but if you don't want to pay a lawyer, there's actually a California state one. It's a statutory one, and you can get it online. And you can do it, and that way, if the parents have the rights to talk to the doctor, they'll be able to find out about how their kids are doing in the hospital. This is really important, and so I wanted to take just a couple seconds out of my talk to point out that if you have college-age kids, make sure you can talk to their doctors. And that's it for my talk today.
Awesome. Nicely done, Brian. Thank you. And Stephanie as well. You guys are fantastic. Our club is very fortunate to have you this last year. You guys have added a lot to us for sure, as far as volunteering and just your personalities alone. It's been a pleasure. I hear that Lucille Norberg is listening with Nora. Hi, Lucille. We miss you and love you very much, and I'm glad that you're able to listen in. And everyone's thinking about you. Wish we could be with you. And that goes for everyone. If there's any other announcements, I'd be happy to let people share, or we can conclude our meeting, which was a fantastic meeting. I'm glad everyone got to join us. Jacqueline, Governor Lou, to our guests also. Mary, is Warren Weaver with you? If he is, please say hello for us. All right, guys. On that note, we are going to have a new speaker next week. We'll send out an email, and we'll also send a recording of this meeting out to our guests and members. And we're going to have Mitch Lehman of the San Marino Tribune speak next week.
Hey, guys.
So that's always entertaining.
If you got 2 seconds, let me try to share a picture of the newest Julia Chow rose to bloom.
Please.
Ah, excellent.
Let me see if it'll let me do it.
Thank you, Jim.
Let's see. Whiteboard. Let's see. I don't know if it's going to get there.
Oh.
Share.
It's there.
Oh, pretty.
It's beautiful.
There.
I see
Wow.
it.
So that just opened yesterday. That's Julia Child. And it was hybridized and introduced by Tom Caruth, who's the Rosarian at the Huntington.
It looks like butter.
It is beautiful. Yeah, she personally picked it.
That's fantastic. Thank you,
Okay.
Jim, for sharing that.
I've got one announcement. Is that okay, Greg?
Please.
Okay, please message me offline. My school district is saying that I cannot have my Interact Club meetings online. We had 2 of them. They said that all clubs are closed. And I know in my heart and in my soul that that is wrong. It's a concern for me because I've got kids in there who are connecting, and for their social emotional learning, they are abandoned by their friends. The ones who come to my club, there are people there who do not have friends who are going to high school, and I'm not being allowed to reach out to them. If you have any pull in the district, I have spoken with my leadership and shared that if kids want to come to club on Tuesdays because it maintains a sameness for them, then they should be allowed to do this. It's always been a voluntary club. There's no penalty for not coming in, but my kids want to hang out. We all brought our plushies to our club meeting, and all of us shared our plushie animals and laughed. So if you've got any advice on how to turn my administration and district into understanding that education is way more than just math and science, it is about love and connection, just like this Rotary Club of ours, please let me know, because I want to cry. And if I'm that isolated, then I know that my kids are also struggling. So help me out, please. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Denise. Anybody else?
Greg, let me
Okay.
know if
Yeah.
you'd like me to do sort of whenever you're ready, unless somebody else has a question, comment.
What did you want to do?
Oh, I just wanted to name the guests that were here with us and thank them for being with us.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, when you're ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right, awesome. First, I'll just say, Denise, I was tearing up when Luann did her induction. So wherever you are, Luann, I cannot see you. I recorded you. It was beautiful. And, you know, we talk about what is our Rotary moment. For me, every time there's an induction, that's my Rotary moment. It really is. And that is terrible. Well, you and I will have to connect on Interactors because I'm doing the same thing with the high school. Anyway, thank you everybody for being on. I know last week we did a tutorial afterwards. I don't think we're prepared today, but if you're still getting to know Zoom, we'll maybe schedule it for next time after the meeting. If you want to learn more about the functionality, Fong and I did it last week. We can make ourselves available next week. I want to thank our guests that were with us today. Chad, pleasure to have you. Hope you come back. Matthew Marsh, I think he needed to leave. Melissa, nice to meet you. We hope you'll come back and visit with us. Spouses are always welcome. Judith, of course, great to have you be inducted. Now you're official, and your husband is always welcome to come. In fact, I should have had my husband today. Brian, you and my husband are going to hit it off. Jacqueline Chen, thank you for being with us and sharing. And Darlene, that's right, Darlene, so nice to see you and have you. Jacqueline, it was a pleasure to have you and hear more about what's going on and sharing that John Hopkins resource. Lucy Seng, what I will do, I lost the chat earlier. I'm going to put my email on the chat as well as my number. I would like to stay connected with our guests so that I can furnish some information about our club and possible membership, and just for you to come back and visit with us again. So please reach out to me because the earlier chats got lost. Did I get everybody? I think, did I miss anybody?
I don't think so, but if anybody could increase membership during a time like this, Gilda, it's you. Wouldn't be surprised. All right, guys, this meant a lot. I really appreciate it. As always, it's awesome to see your faces. Wish we could do it more. And I hope everyone had a nice time, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. All right, be well, stay safe, and take care of your families.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye, everybody.
I'm muting everyone.
All right.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Fong.
Thank you.
Stephanie, Brian, great job.
Be well, be safe.
Phenomenal.
Good job, Brian. Good job, Stephanie.
What about thumbs up?
Great job, Brian, Stephanie. Wonderful, wonderful job.
Thumbs up on your bottom button.
Where I can't find my thumbs up one. Okay.
I don't know how to do that.
It's interesting. It knows what color my hand is.
Is it in flashes? There we go. Here I found the thumbs up. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Now I can't find it.
I've been clapping in American Sign Language.
That's
Yes.
good.
Russ, is everything okay at Southwestern? Yeah. Okay. It's a very
I
different.
can
world.
tell you more about it sometime, but it's all good.
Okay. Good. Take care.
So
See?
President Greg, is meeting adjourned?
Look, Mike, it's brown.
Hey, Isaac. Good. Good to see you.
We had 46 people on today.
That's
Wow.
wonderful.
Good job, guys.
Wow.
Excellent work.
People.
I think our president exited, so I
46.
think the meeting must be over.
Awesome.
Great. Great. All
Have a
right.
great day.
Bye,
You too.
everybody.
Bye,
Richie finally
everyone.
comes home today. I'm looking
Stay
forward to
safe.
quarantine.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.
If you have not enough food or toilet paper, please call me.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm
Thank you.
serious. Just
happy
call me.
birthday, Orlowski.
Bye.
Ron, you
You're
are
allowed
a
to give a
godsend. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
See you later.
Thank you.
Okay. So Gilda, what's up?
What's up?
I'm gonna close the recording.